In the early 90s, the REIT sector was fairly small, owning only about 100 billion worth of assets, primarily office, retail and residential. But then the REIT sector really took off and all sorts of specialty REITs began to emerge. Now, 30 years later, the REIT industry is huge, controlling over 4 trillion worth of assets spanning across over 20 different property sectors. This includes office, industrial, hotels, malls, strip centers, apartments, single-family rentals, manufactured housing, self-storage, senior housing, skilled nursing, medical office buildings, life science, hospitals, net lease, ground lease, cannabis cultivation facilities, casinos, timberland, farmland, data centers, cell towers, outdoor storage, billboards, cold storage, and even more things. The list goes on, but the point is that REITs really truly invest in every single imaginable property sector today. Beyond that, REIT-like entities now also exist in 40 plus different countries, resulting in over 1,000 publicly listed options to consider. Some of the biggest REIT markets worldwide include United States, Canada, Mexico, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Australia, and South Africa. And so because the REIT market is so vast and versatile today, it's very hard to answer today's question, which is what REITs are the most undervalued right now? And it's especially hard because the reality is that most REITs are today heavily discounted. They're trading at some of their lowest valuations ever at the moment. But even then, there are some specific property sectors that stand out as being even more heavily discounted than the rest. Typically, these are property sectors that are going through some temporary headwinds that have, hurt their market sentiment. Most investors are highly focused on short-term results, and if a REIT property sector, as an example, is oversupplied and expected to perform poorly over the next year or two, this will often cause the market to overreact and heavily discount those REITs. And so there are two such property sectors that really stand out right now, and I'm going to discuss those in today's video. The first one is self-storage, and particularly in Europe, but also in the US. Self-storage REITs suffered in recent years from bumpiness caused by the pandemic. Initially, it led to a huge surge in demand as a lot of people were relocating from one market to another to seek better opportunities. Many people were also seeking to make space at home for home office, and unfortunately a lot of older generations were also passing away, leaving a lot of stuff behind that needed to be stored. This quickly attracted the attention of property developers, especially since interest rates were near 0%, and they started building new self-storage facilities all over the place. But then the world normalized and the demand dropped, even as all of this new supply gradually starting to hit the market in 2024, 2025, and some of it will also in 2026. And so this put this property sector in a state of oversupply with net absorption being negative, supply exceeding the demand, and as a result occupancy rates started to drop and rents stagnated or even declined in some specific markets. So what this means is that 2021, 2022 were very good years. Cash flows surged very rapidly for self-storage REITs. But then 2023 was a bit of a transition year with slower growth. 2024, 2025 was slightly negative growth or stagnation at best. 2026 is now expected to be a transition year, a bit similar to 2023 with slow growth. And now 2027 is the year that we all anticipate for the market to regain balance and cash flow growth to accelerate. And that's why I like this opportunity. We're now seeing light at the end of the tunnel. We're coming towards the end of this supply cycle, and we know this because it's not possible in most cases for property developers to earn a profit by developing new self-storage right now because interest rates are much higher, cap rates have expanded, the property sector is already oversupplied, making it very difficult to lease up these properties. And so because this has become unprofitable, developers have scaled back projects. The new construction starts in self-storage industry are very low today. And so we know that, as we get past this supply cycle, 2027, 2028, 2029 are likely to be years with very low new supply, even as we actually expect the demand growth to now accelerate in big part as a result of the AI revolution, as it will lead to a lot of labor market disruption, which will push more mobility as people have to move around to find a new job. And I think that the market is overlooking this. The supply is about to collapse even as the demand could surge. And so suddenly we could find ourselves in a completely different situation. And I think I'm not the only one to see this, as private equity players have now really starting to go aggressively after these REITs. Just recently, Brookfield announced the acquisition of National Storage REIT in Australia, a transaction from which we profited at High Yield Landlord, by the way. If you want to access our full portfolio, you can join us for a 2-week free trial. It will be the link in the description of this video. Blackstone was recently rumored to go after Big Yellow Group in the UK. And finally, Public Storage, the biggest self-storage REIT in the world, just recently announced the acquisition of National Storage affiliates in the US. So what this means is that M&A activity is clearly picking up now, and I think that this is simply because valuations remain heavily discounted, despite us now seeing light at the end of the tunnel and fundamentals potentially really flipping around and becoming very strong in the coming years. And my top pick in this sector right now is a company called Shurgard. It's the leading self-storage REIT in continental Europe. Public Storage is actually its biggest shareholder, owning about a fourth of its equity, and I think that's a likely buyout target, as Public Storage just recently demonstrated it has returned to M&A, just acquired a smaller REIT, and it already owns a big chunk of Shurgard, yet it's trading at a steep discount relative to Public Storage, meaning that it could pay a steep premium and the transaction still will be accretive to its FFO per share. Clearly it likes the assets, it likes the management, it likes the platform, as it has already heavily invested in it, and so I think it just would make a lot of sense, especially as Shurgard today is trading at a near 40% discount to its net asset value, a much higher implied cap rate of closer to 7%, and it has guided to return to fast growth in 2027, with its FFO per share expected to grow by 6 to 8% through 2030. I think that the upside potential is upwards of 50% here. If it gets true fair value, in a buyout likely will get somewhat less than this, but the upside will be realized much faster, and while you wait, you're earning a 4.2% dividend yield. And ultimately, even if the upside doesn't get realized, again, they've guided to grow the FFO per share annually by 6 to 8% starting in 2027. You combine that with the 4.2% dividend yield and you're earning double-digit total returns. That's coming from a blue chip REIT with low leverage, high quality assets, a leader in its property sector, very attractive in my opinion in terms of the risk reward, and this is why we hold a position in our international REIT portfolio at High Yield Landlord. Hey, before I go into the second property sector that I think is heavily discounted, can you do me a huge favor and click the like button? It will help me a lot to keep growing this channel. Thanks so much in advance. The second property sector that I now want to discuss is much more controversial, and it's that of life science properties, and it has had a bit of a similar story to self-storage as it relates to the pandemic, in that initially it led to enormous demand growth as all these biotech and pharma companies were heavily investing in research and developments of new drugs to fight off the pandemic. This led to very rapid rent growth in 2021 and 2022. However, again, this of course attracted the attention of property developers who started building all over the place, and right as the world normalized from the pandemic, the supply began hitting the market in 2023, 2024, 2025, and so this put the property sector in a severe state of oversupply. What made things even worse is that office landlords were greatly suffering from the pandemic with record high vacancies, and a lot of them thought to reconfigure their office buildings into life science properties in order to refill them, but this didn't happen as this property sector was already oversupplied, and so this led to historically high vacancy rates. So the situation was very bad already, but what really made it a lot worse in 2025 is that the new Trump administration went on a full attack of the life science industry with regular threats of price control, tariffs, really big tariffs, funding cuts, and much more. The main issue also is that the policies and guidance would keep changing drastically from one week to another. It was full chaos. I'll put a slide on the screen discussing this chaos, and the problem is that when these companies don't know what to expect, they don't know what the rules will be in a week from now, they simply stop investments, and so that's what happened. That hurt, that pretty much killed the demand for life science properties right at the worst possible time, as the property sector was already oversupplied, making the oversupply issue much bigger than it already was. And this brings us to today. Occupancy rates and rents are dropping, and the tough, challenging conditions are expected to last for at least another 3 years from now, because the situation is so severe. And in that sense, the life science property sector is doing a lot worse than the self-storage property sector. In a way, the oversupply issue is a lot more extreme. Even then, I think that this could potentially be a great buying opportunity for long-term oriented investors who can ignore the noise of the next 3 years and focus on the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, the near to mid-term outlook is very negative. However, I think that the long-term outlook still remains very positive, and there are simple reasons for this. Firstly, the global population continues to age at a very rapid pace, which will increase the need for medical treatments. Secondly, 90% plus of the known 10,000 plus diseases still don't have a proper treatment, so there's a massive opportunity to keep reinvesting in this research and development of the drugs. This is not going anywhere. And third, and this is the important point, is that I think that the AI revolution is going to unleash a new golden age of healthcare innovation. It's going to greatly accelerate research, all while also breaking down barriers to entry to enter the biotech business, and I expect this to ultimately lead to an explosion in new small biotech company formation, all of which will want to lease space in the best properties which are owned by REITs like Alexandria Real Estate. At the same time, I also expect the big tech companies like Apple, Apple and Google to increasingly move into the biotech space because, again, AI is breaking barriers to entry and making it a lot more feasible for them. Steve Jobs, before dying, said that this is the big opportunity of the next century. As the research and development of these drugs greatly accelerate, there will be big winners in the biotech space. There will be also a lot more competitors, a lot more companies that will compete for this specific space. And so I think that, right now, yes, conditions are tough, but I think that 5 years from now, it could be day and night. Today, Alexandria is perceived to be a REIT that's facing severe headwinds from very severe oversupply, and that is true. It recently forced the REIT to cut its dividend even. However, 5 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if Alexandria is now perceived to be one of the biggest hidden winners of the AI revolution and the acceleration of the biotech industry and this new golden age of AI-driven healthcare innovation. And if that happens, wouldn't be surprised if Alexandria, a lot of you may think that this is unlikely, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alexandria suddenly is trading at a higher valuation multiple than ever before. And if that's happening based on even higher earnings, the upside could be huge here. Alexandria is now trading at its lowest valuation ever, even lower than during the great financial crisis if you adjust for today's stronger balance sheet. And so, it could triple from here. It will still be far away from its recent highs of the past cycle. And, ultimately, while the situation is very tough today, I think that the REIT's BBB+ investment grade rated balance sheet, very long debt terms of 12 years, as well as its 7-year average lease terms will provide some protection through this messy period. It will still face some pain, no doubt, and that is why they already cut their dividend. But I think that it will survive this down cycle and it will see those better days. And if that's the case, I think that there could be very significant upside on the other side of this cycle. Yes, this is not in a year or two from now. It will be closer to 3 to 5 years from now. And that is ultimately why the stock is so cheap. Most investors don't have that patience. They cannot look past the next quarter or next year at best. And so Alexandria is uninvestable for most investors, but that is why it's so cheap and why I like it as a long-term oriented landlord who's investing in REITs in the same way I would be investing in traditional real estate. The senior housing property sector was in a similar state following the pandemic. This was a huge headwind for senior housing as the occupants were dying. A lot of people were scared to move in these facilities due to the spread of the virus. And so these REITs like Welltower were then very heavily discounted. But now look at them today. It's the opposite. The property sector is severely undersupplied. Rents are growing rapidly. I think Welltower has probably tripled or quadrupled from its lows in just a few years. Something similar could be in the cards, I think, for Alexandria, and that is why I hold the position. Once again, if you want to gain access to my full REIT portfolio, which aims to maximize total returns by taking contrarian bets in this type of opportunities, you can join us at High Yield Landlord for a 2-week free trial. You'll be the first link in the description of this video. Secondly, if you want to learn more about my REIT investment strategy, my book is out now on Amazon. It has a foreword from the CEO of VG Properties. Thanks so much for your interest. See you at my next one. Bye-bye.